Picture this: stone walls dripping with blood, chains rattling in the dark, as a queen's crown gleams under flickering torchlight, its gold already veined with crimson shadows. Her throne was a gilded grave from the moment she claimed it, and that night would scar an empire forever. Hit subscribe now. 80% miss history's bloody secrets. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Now, let us begin. In the shadowed halls of Tudor England, Anne Boleyn ascended like a storm-wrought phantom, her ambition a blade forged in the fires of reform. Born around 1501 into the ambitious Boleyn family, she returned from the courts of France and the Netherlands in 1522, her wit sharp as a dagger's edge, her dark eyes pools of unyielding resolve. Henry VIII, that hulking monarch whose desires reshaped kingdoms, first glimpsed her as a lady-in-waiting to his wife, Catherine of Aragon. But Anne was no mere ornament. She wielded her charm like a weapon, refusing the king's advances until he promised her the crown. His legacy was already ash before he drew his first breath. Legends whisper of the son she would fail to deliver, but in those early days, her rise was a crimson torrent. The major historical beat here unfolds in the king's great matter: Henry's desperate quest for an annulment from Catherine, driven by Anne's pregnancy in 1533. He broke with Rome, declaring himself supreme head of the Church of England, a seismic betrayal that splintered Christendom. Anne, crowned queen on June 1st, 1533, in Westminster Abbey, wore a gown of purple velvet, her belly swelling with promise. Yet, the psychological insight reveals Henry's rotting ambition. His paranoia festered like an untreated wound, suspecting every shadow of conspiracy as Anne bore a daughter, Elizabeth, instead of the longed-for heir. Her crown pulsed with every heartbeat, a vivid sensory detail symbolizing the bleeding crown that would soon claim her life, its jewels like congealed blood drops under the coronation lights. But the cruelty had only just begun. 90% don't know this bloody secret, but you're about to uncover it. Anne's miscarriages in 1534 and 1536 fueled Henry's delusion, his mind a labyrinth of betrayal where love curdled into hatred. He turned to Jane Seymour, a pale spectre in waiting, her meekness a stark contrast to Anne's fire. The haunting irony? Anne, who had orchestrated Catherine's downfall through whispered seductions and political maneuvers, now faced the same flesh-ripping agony of displacement. Her throne dripped with the blood of forgotten queens, a quotable line that echoes through time, or ambition's kiss is laced with poison. Fast-paced, the action surged. On April 30th, 1536, musician Mark Smeaton was arrested and tortured in the tower's grim depths, his screams echoing off stone as irons twisted his flesh. Blood sprayed as bones cracked under the rack's merciless pull, his confession of adultery with Anne a fabricated lie born of pain. This extreme shock moment, narrated in under 10 seconds, painted the walls in crimson agony. What happened next defies imagination. Arrests cascaded like falling dominoes, ensnaring courtiers Henry Norris, Francis Weston, William Brereton, and Anne's own brother George Boleyn. Anne's psychological dives were brief. Her delusion of security shattered as Henry's spies wove a web of lies, her paranoia mirroring his own in a twisted dance. Yet, in this gore-infused prelude, the modern relevance hook emerges. Her fabricated downfall echoes today's surveillance states, where whispers in digital shadows can topple lives with the swiftness of a blade. Power's gaze sees enemies in every mirror, another quotable for the ages. The bleeding crown motif haunts. As Anne hosted a tennis match on May 2nd, unaware guards approached, their boots thudding like heartbeats on stone. She was seized, rowed to the tower under Traitor's Gate, the water lapping like hungry tongues. Legends whisper she laughed hysterically upon arrival, her mind fracturing under the weight. But the fast action pressed on, interrogations in cold cells, where the air reeked of damp rot and fierce sweat. Henry's betrayal was complete, his letters once burning with passion, now ash in the fire of his rage. Micro cliffhanger. Yet the true horror lurked in the trial's farce, where justice bled out on marble floors. his dagger carved flesh in a crimson spray during another interrogation, a shock ripping through the narrative like thunder. Soul-crushing betrayal wears a crown of thorns. What would you do in her place? Comment below and hit that like button if this chills you. Was her ambition justified, or was she doomed from birth? Vote in the poll above. Chains of betrayal. The tower's iron gates clang shut behind Anne Boleyn, sealing her in a crypt of stone and shadow, where the bleeding crown of her queenship began to weep openly, its gold decaying into rusted chains of despair. Arrested on May 2nd, 1536, she faced the void of Henry's madness, his once ardent love now a flesh-tearing scream echoing through the corridors. The major historical beat thunders in the trial. On May 15th, in the Great Hall of the Tower, Anne stood before 26 peers, presided over by her uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, a man whose loyalty to the king outweighed blood ties. Charges of adultery with 5 men, incest with her brother George, and plotting Henry's death were hurled like poisoned barbs, each fabricated to justify her erasure. Evidence: Smeaton's tortured confession, twisted words from courtiers, and whispers of witchcraft. None verifiable, all damning in a court rigged for conviction. The psychological insight pierces. Anne's paranoia bloomed in isolation, her mind a storm of delusion, where every ally's face hid a traitor's grin. Yet she held her composure like a shield forged in fire. Vivid sensory detail assaults, the hall's air thick with incense and sweat, her gown's fabric whispering against skin as she defended herself with eloquence, her voice a haunting melody amid the stone-like sentences of judgment. The haunting irony, she who had whispered reforms into Henry's ear, birthing the English Reformation, now knelt before its corrupted altar, chained by the very power she helped unleash. Her words were daggers dulled by deceit, a quotable line, or betrayal's blade cuts deepest from kin, and the crown bleeds when ambition rots. But the cruelty had only just begun. 90% don't know this bloody secret, but you're about to uncover it. The trial lasted mere hours, guilty verdict sealed before it began, her marriage annulled on May 17th by Archbishop Cranmer on spurious grounds of pre-contract with Henry Percy. Fast-paced action. George Boleyn's trial followed, his incest charge a crimson-soaked madness that stained the family name, his denials drowned in the roar of condemnation. Insert gore-heavy shock. In the dungeons below, another accused, perhaps Weston, endured the rack's embrace, flesh tearing as joints popped in a symphony of agony, blood pooling like wine spilled from a shattered chalice. This extreme moment, under 10 seconds, sprayed crimson as bones cracked under iron's grip. What happened next defies imagination. Anne, in her cell, fluctuated between hysteria and serenity, joking to Constable Kingston about her little neck and the executioner's skill, her delusion a fragile veil over terror. Legends whisper of her nights, prayers murmured in the dark, the bleeding crown imagined atop her head, pulsing with each ragged breath. Modern relevance hook. This farce of justice mirrors today's show trials in authoritarian regimes, where truth bends to power's will, erasing voices with fabricated evidence. Madness reigns where laws are lies. Pacing accelerates. On May 18th, execution delayed twice, heightening the soul-crushing suspense, Anne telling Kingston she was prepared to die, her acceptance a psychological armor. The air in her chamber grew heavy, stone walls closing in like a tomb. Henry's orchestration loomed. He chose the French swordsman for a merciful end, avoiding the burn of stakes, yet prolonging her torment in the tower's grip. Micro cliffhanger. But dawn on May 19th brought the scaffold's shadow, where humiliation awaited in full crimson bloom. Rotted ambition festered as guards marched her forth, a quotable, "Prisons are built by those already chained." What would you do in his place? Comment below and hit that like button if this chills you. Was his madness justified, or was he doomed from birth? Vote in the poll above. Tower of Torment. Dawn broke over the tower like a wound reopening, the bleeding crown now a phantom relic, its crimson rivulets staining the scaffold's wood where Anne Boleyn would meet her end. On May 19, 1536, she walked to Tower Green, barefoot over cold stone, her dignity wrapped in trembling prayers, a queen reduced to spectacle. The major historical beat culminates in the execution. Clad in a grey damask gown trimmed with fur, an ermine mantle about her shoulders, Anne ascended the steps with untroubled countenance, her beauty noted by witnesses as never more radiant. The French swordsman, summoned from Calais at Henry's command, wielded a sword for a swift, merciful strike, sparing her the axe's bungled horror or stake's flames. She addressed the crowd. "Good Christian people, I am come hither to die. I pray God save the king, for a gentler nor a more merciful prince was there never." Blindfolded, she knelt, repeating, "Jesu, receive my soul." Psychological insight. In her final hours, Anne's delusion transcended to serenity, a profound peace amid paranoia, swearing innocence on the sacrament before Kingston, her soul unburdened by fabricated sins. Vivid sensory symbolic detail. The scaffold creaked underfoot, wind carrying the scent of hay strewn to soak blood, her crown, imagined, pulsing one last time, bleeding into oblivion. Haunting irony. Henry, who remade England for her, now erased her in days, betrothed to Jane Seymour that very afternoon, his mercy a veil for cruelty. Her screams painted the walls in blood, though she uttered none. Instead, the blade whispers secrets to the neck, and dynasties break on betrayal's edge, quotables etched in crimson. But the cruelty had only just begun. 90% don't know this bloody secret, but you're about to uncover it. The executioner feigned distraction, calling for his sword as Anne turned, prolonging suspense in unbearable cruelty. Fast-paced, she knelt, the crowd hushed, feasting on shame. Extreme shock, the sword arced, severing head in a crimson spray, blood fountaining as flesh parted, her body crumpling in gore-soaked finality, under 10 seconds of narrated horror. What happened next defies imagination. Head wrapped in white cloth, body carted to St. Peter at Vincula, buried unmarked, cannons booming the signal. Henry's madness complete, he married Jane 11 days later. Modern relevance. Anne's humiliation echoes in today's public shamings on social media, where reputations are beheaded by mobs, power's betrayal timeless. Power's price is paid in blood. As chains rusted to dust in the archive of time, Anne's legacy endures, a queen whose bleeding crown symbolizes broken dynasties, her story a haunted Baroque painting of cruelty and madness. Echoing the motif, her end was not mere death, but erasure, the gold decayed, the blood eternal. What price do we pay for power today? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe for more bloody truths, and ring the bell to never miss a whisper from the archive. What would you do in her place? Comment below and hit that like button if this chills you. Was his paranoia justified, or was he doomed from birth? Vote in the poll above. Bleeding crown falls. The echo of Anne Boleyn's fall lingered like a wound that refused to close. The bleeding crown now a spectre, haunting England's fractured dynasty, its crimson stains seeping into the very stones of the tower. Her execution on May 19th, 1536, was not the end, but a prelude to a legacy carved in betrayal and madness, a dynasty unraveling under the weight of its own ambition. The air still reeked of blood and treachery, as if the scaffold's timbers whispered her name to the wind. What price would England pay for this crimson-soaked spectacle? Drop your thoughts below and hit subscribe. 90% miss the haunted truths of history's darkest corners. The major historical beat surges forward. Anne's death rippled through the Tudor court, reshaping a nation. Her daughter Elizabeth, declared a bastard at 2 years old, was cast into the shadows, her mother's name a forbidden whisper. Henry VIII, remarried to Jane Seymour by May 30th, 1536, pursued his male heir with relentless hunger. But Jane's death in childbirth a year later left his dynasty teetering. The psychological insight cuts deep. Henry's paranoia, a festering rot, grew monstrous after Anne's execution, seeing enemies in every ally. His mind a labyrinth where loyalty was a myth. He built prisons of suspicion, unaware he was chained within them, a haunting irony that defined his reign. His throne was a pyre of broken oaths, a quotable line, or betrayal's shadow outlives the blade. Vivid sensory detail paints the scene. The court's tapestries, once vibrant, seemed to sag under the weight of unspoken guilt, their gold threads dull as if mourning Anne's erased radiance. The bleeding crown motif persists, imagined atop Elizabeth's infant head, pulsing with the heartbeat of a future queen who would rise from her mother's ashes. But the cruelty had only just begun. 90% don't know this bloody secret, but you're about to uncover it. Henry's purge extended beyond Anne, with courtiers trembling, fearing the next accusation. Fast-paced action, Thomas Cromwell, Anne's one-time ally turned architect of her downfall, tightened his grip, orchestrating arrests to secure his power, his quill as deadly as any sword. Insert gore-heavy shock. In the tower's depths, another forgotten prisoner, perhaps a minor conspirator, faced the executioner's negligence. An axe blunted by overuse hacking through flesh, blood spraying as bones splintered in a crimson-soaked agony, the air thick with the stench of death. This moment, under 10 seconds narrated, chills with its raw brutality. Flesh-ripping screams carve history's scars, a quotable etched in gore. What happened next defies imagination. Elizabeth, raised in obscurity, bore the weight of her mother's disgrace, her tutors whispering of Anne's courage even as her name was struck from records. Legends whisper of Anne's ghost, her silhouette glimpsed in the tower's moonlight. A spectre clutching the bleeding crown, her eyes burning with unavenged fire. The modern relevance hook strikes, her erasure mirrors today's cancel culture, where lives are dismantled by accusation alone, truth buried under the weight of power's narrative. Madness thrives where truth is silenced. Pacing accelerates. Henry's reign descended into further chaos, his 6 wives a parade of broken promises. Catherine Howard beheaded in 1542, echoing Anne's fate. The bleeding crown haunted each successor, its gold decaying as England fractured under religious strife and succession crises. Elizabeth's eventual rise in 1558, a phoenix from her mother's pyre, was a distant redemption. But in 1536, the dynasty was a house of rusted chains, each link forged in betrayal. Micro cliffhanger. Yet Anne's story was not hers alone. Her blood stained the future, her daughter's reign a testament to defiance born of despair. Dynasties bleed when ambition rules, another quotable for the ages. The outro winds down, echoing the motif. The bleeding crown, now dust and shadow, lies buried in the archive of time. Its crimson pulse a warning to those who chase power's gilded lie. Anne's fall was more than execution. It was a dynasty's fracture, a queen's erasure, a mother's legacy forged in fire. What would you sacrifice for a crown today? Comment below, hit that like button if this haunts you, and subscribe for more crimson truths from the archive. Ring the bell to never miss a whisper of history's blood-soaked secrets. Was Elizabeth's triumph Anne's revenge, or was the crown's curse eternal? Vote in the poll above. Ashes of ambition.